The sky burned with strange colors when the first alien ships broke through Earth's atmosphere. People thought it was a meteor shower until the explosions started. Entire cities vanished in seconds. No one had time to prepare. The world was caught off guard by something beyond imagination. Captain Raylan Pierce had only seen war in simulations. He was a rescue pilot, trained to fly into danger zones and pull out survivors. But this was different. His orders were simple: reach the outer zone of Sector 12 and bring back any human life he could find. He didn't know he was flying into the middle of something ancient and hidden. As his ship cut through the smoke-filled air, Raylan spotted something unusual. Alien machines weren't just attacking, they were searching. Every building they destroyed, they scanned first. They weren't here to wipe out humans. They were looking for something. Or someone. The mission turned to chaos when his ship was hit. Not by a weapon, but by an energy pulse that shut down his systems. He crash-landed in the remains of a ruined city. Broken glass, scattered bodies, and strange symbols covered the walls. The air was heavy, almost whispering secrets. Raylan pulled himself from the wreckage, wounded but alive. His right arm was cut, blood running freely. But the pain didn't matter. His pilot instincts kicked in. Find shelter. Stay hidden, signal command. He moved quickly into the shadows of the destroyed buildings. For hours he stayed quiet until he heard them. Not human voices, but alien ones, deep, echoing tones mixed with strange clicks. They were close. Raylan climbed into a collapsed tunnel and held his breath. Through the cracks, he saw her. The figure leading them wasn't like the others. She looked almost human. Almost. She was tall, elegant, and glowing with faint blue light. Her armor shimmered like liquid metal, and her long silver hair braided around a crown of sharp crystals. But it was her eyes that struck him. Cold, sharp, intelligent. She wasn't a soldier. She was something more. A queen. Raylan didn't move. He couldn't. She stepped closer to his hiding place, as if she sensed something. Her warriors stopped. Behind her. She raised her hand, fingers spread wide, and the energy in the air shifted. It wasn't an attack. It was recognition. She turned toward the shadows and whispered something in her language. Raylan stayed still, but blood from his arm dripped onto the cracked stone floor. The sound echoed. The queen's head snapped toward him. Her eyes widened. She froze. For a second, everything stopped. Even her guards looked confused. She whispered again, softer this time, her voice trembling. Then she said it in English. "You can't be real." Raylan didn't understand. He was a human pilot, nothing more. But she looked at him like he was a ghost, like he was something from her past, or her future. Then, without a signal, she dropped to one knee. Her guards drew their weapons in confusion. But the queen didn't look afraid. She looked stunned. Awakened. Something in Raylan's blood, in his wound, had triggered a reaction. Not just from her, but from the city around them. The ruins began to glow faintly, the strange symbols lighting up like veins of energy. The queen looked around, her lips parted in awe. Then she turned to her soldiers and spoke one word in her language. They lowered their weapons. Raylan stumbled out of the tunnel, unsure if he was walking into death or destiny. The queen rose slowly, her eyes locked on his arm. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice shaking. He didn't know how to answer. But something deep inside him whispered that this war was never about Earth. It was about him. And the queen already knew the truth. Raylan stood there, heart pounding in his chest as the alien queen stared at him. Her silver blue eyes shimmered like the stars, but it wasn't beauty that made him freeze. It was the way she looked at him, not like an enemy, but like someone she'd lost long ago. Her soldiers didn't move. Neither did he. The wind blew softly across the broken city, carrying ash and sparks. The queen slowly reached out her hand, not to attack, but to touch the blood on his arm. Raylan took a step back, confused and breathing hard. She lowered her hand, and her voice broke the silence. "This is not possible," she said. More to herself than to him. He couldn't stay quiet any longer. "Who are you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "What do you want from me?" The Queen looked into his eyes for a long time before answering. "You are not supposed to exist," she said softly. "And yet, you stand here, bleeding from the mark of the forgotten." Raylan blinked. "What mark?" he asked. She pointed at his wound. The blood wasn't just red anymore. A faint glow shimmered in the cut pale blue, matching the Queen's own aura. She turned to her soldiers and spoke quickly in her language. One of them activated a small floating drone, which projected symbols in the air. The Queen tapped one, and an ancient design appeared, a spiral with jagged edges and a glowing center. It was identical to the mark now glowing faintly beneath Raylan's skin. "This symbol belongs to the firstborn," the Queen said. "And they have been gone for over 10,000 cycles." Raylan had no idea what that meant, but it sounded like she thought he was one of them. Or something worse. "I'm just a human," he said. "A pilot. I don't know anything about your firstborn." She narrowed her eyes. "Perhaps not. But your blood remembers." She turned sharply and gestured for him to follow. The soldiers made way for her, still watching Raylan like he was something dangerous. He didn't want to follow. He didn't trust her. But he had no choice. His ship was gone, his cums were dead, and something told him this Queen held answers he couldn't afford to ignore. They walked through the ruins, past fallen towers and flickering lights. The city looked ancient, but strange machines still hummed under the surface. The Queen led him into a chamber hidden behind a sealed door. When it opened, blue light bathed them in a soft glow. Inside were walls covered in symbols. One of them matched the mark on his arm perfectly. "This place is a memory vault," the Queen said. "It holds fragments of those who came before. Perhaps it will help us understand why you carry their blood." Raylan stepped forward, staring at the glowing walls. Images appeared, humanoids with glowing marks, walking among alien cities and stars. They weren't exactly human, but they were close. "What happened to them?" he asked. "They vanished," the Queen said. "Long before my kind rose to power. But there were whispers, prophecies, that one would return. That their bloodline would awaken when the stars began to fall." Raylan felt cold. He had always believed in science, not prophecy. But this didn't feel like a story. This felt real. The glowing blood in his arm, the reaction from the machines, the Queen's fear was all connected. Suddenly, the walls lit up brighter. A beam of light scanned his body. He stepped back, startled, but the Queen held him still. "Let it finish," she said. "The vault is reading your genetic memory." Images flashed in the air, memories not his own. Planets, wars, strange languages. A child with glowing eyes. A queen kneeling. Then everything stopped. The room went dark. The vault had gone silent. Raylan looked at the Queen. "What did it see?" he asked. She stared at him, her voice soft and shaking. "It saw a rebirth. And it named you, the Returner." Raylan stepped back, his thoughts racing. None of this made sense. But the look in the Queen's eyes told him one thing was true. Whatever he was before didn't matter anymore. Now the entire war might depend on who he was becoming, and the Queen was the only one who could guide him. Raylan sat in silence, staring at the holographic image of the firstborn. The room was still dim, lit only by the fading light of the memory vault. The Queen stood beside him, hands clasped behind her back. She hadn't spoken again since the vault named him the Returner. His heart beat heavily. He wasn't chosen. He wasn't special. He was just a man who had followed orders, crashed in the wrong place, and now stood in the middle of something too large to understand. The Queen turned toward him slowly. "If the vault speaks truth," she said, then everything we've built may be built on a lie. Raylan looked at her. Why would the return of these firstborn change your empire? He asked. She paused before answering. Because we didn't rise from nothing. We inherited this galaxy after their fall. Our science, our cities, even our history, all of it began with them. And if one of them returns, our right to rule may end. It wasn't just legend to her. It was her throne, her people, her power. And now he stood as a threat to it all. Yet she had not imprisoned him, she had protected him. That confused him more than anything else. I need to know the truth, Raylan said. About them. About why my blood glows. About what I am, the Queen nodded once. Then come with me. There is one place left that might still remember. They left the vault chamber in silence. The Queen's soldiers escorted them as they passed through deeper tunnels beneath the ruins. Strange lights flickered overhead. The deeper they went, the older the technology became. Rusted pipes, cracked walls. Symbols from a forgotten age glowing faintly under the dust. At the end of the corridor stood a large, sealed chamber. It looked ancient, untouched by time. The Queen placed her hand against the panel, and the door opened with a deep sound that echoed for miles. Inside was a vast circular room with a single pedestal in the center. This is the heart of memory. She said, it holds the deepest records. If you truly are what the vault claims, it will open for you. Raylan stepped forward slowly. He placed his hand on the pedestal. Nothing happened at first. Then a soft pulse of light ran through his fingers. The entire room lit up in a wave of blue energy. The air itself seemed to come alive. Images began to float around him, ghostly. Projections of a time long gone. He saw battles fought in space. Cities made of light. Creatures that no longer existed. Then he saw something else. A child being taken from a hidden facility. That child had a mark on his hand. The same spiral glowing now in Raylan's blood. He stumbled back. That's me, he whispered. The Queen stepped closer, her voice calm but sharp. You were not born on Earth, were you? Raylan tried to remember. Flashes of strange dreams returned. Cold rooms, glowing lights, a voice whispering a name he never understood. His parents never spoke of his early years. He had no records before age 5. Suddenly it made sense why they hid me, he said. Someone took me to Earth to hide what I was. The Queen looked around the room, her voice growing colder. And now that you've awakened, others will sense it. Not all of them will be loyal to me. Raylan met her eyes. Then why help me? She didn't look away. Because I once saw a vision of the returner. And I loved him. The silence between them deepened. Raylan didn't know what that meant. But he could see the truth in her face. She wasn't just a queen. She was someone who had waited lifetimes for this moment. And now everything was about to change. Asterisk. The heart of memory faded slowly, its glowing projections dissolving into the air like mist. Raylan stepped away from the pedestal, his body trembling. What he had seen was not just history. It felt like pieces of his own life that had been stolen and returned. The Queen stood silent, her face calm but her eyes focused. She had watched every vision with him. She had seen the child taken, the ancient codes injected, the long escape through stars unknown. She had seen the same wound that now pulsed with light on Raylan's arm. You are more than a soldier, she said. You are a lock that was never meant to open. Raylan looked at his hand, then at her. So what happens now? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked to the edge of the chamber. Her fingers traced the walls, as if searching for something only she could see. Now we must awaken the last seer, she said. Only she can confirm what you are. And if you are what I fear, it may already be too late. Raylan followed her. Out of the chamber, the tunnels above were alive with motion. The Queen's forces were gathering. Ships hummed in low orbit above the ruins, visible through open cracks in the surface. The air had changed. There was tension in every step. One of the guards rushed forward and bowed. "My queen," he said, "we've intercepted a signal." "The High Council knows he is here." The queen's face hardened. "They will send assassins," she said. "They will not risk the prophecy becoming truth." Raylan clenched his fists. "I'm not running," he said. The queen gave him a long look. "Then you will need armor." She led him to a chamber deep beneath the capital ruins. Inside, ancient. Suits stood tall against the wall, sleek, beautiful, etched with glowing lines that shifted like flowing water. One of them, the most refined, opened as they entered. The armor reacted not to the queen, but to Raylan. "It recognizes you," she whispered. The armor attached itself piece by piece. The moment it locked in place, Raylan felt something stir within him. The world became sharper. Sounds clearer. The wound on his arm stopped bleeding, now sealed beneath glowing metal. The queen stared at him like he had become someone else. "This was not meant to happen yet," she said. "But the stars have moved faster than we hoped." Suddenly, alarms echoed through the ruins. Red light bathed the walls. The ground trembled slightly. The guard's voice came through the coms. "Multiple warships descending, cloaked, High Council fleet." Raylan turned to the queen. "Then we fight." She gave a small smile. "Yes," she said, "but not here. If they capture you, they will erase your memory. Again. And this time, there will be no one to awaken it." Raylan nodded. "Where is the seer?" "Beyond the gate of ice," she said. "In the forgotten north." "We must leave now." The queen raised her arm, and a dark silver transport ship emerged from beneath the surface. The ground split open, and the ship lifted them into the sky. Raylan looked back one last time at the glowing ruins. He had come to save survivors. Instead, he had become something more than he ever expected. And now, the future of two civilizations depended on whether the last seer would accept him. The ship flew through the upper layers of the alien sky, its wings cutting through the thick clouds like blades. Lightning pulsed in the distance, revealing glimpses of strange floating monoliths and the ruins of ancient stations, long lost to time. Raylan sat beside the queen in silence, armored now, but carrying questions he couldn't put into words. The queen kept her gaze on the horizon. Her expression was unreadable, carved from years of command and buried memories. She had not spoken since liftoff. Her silence spoke of fear, or perhaps grief, neither of which she could afford to show in front of her soldiers. Raylan finally asked, "What is the Gate of Ice?" She turned slightly toward him. "It is a place no longer marked on any map. A sanctuary built before the War of Ancestors. Only the seers knew the way, but I was taken there once as a child. I remember the shape of the mountains, the way the stars vanished above it." Raylan watched the stars vanish now through the viewing panel. He believed her. As they flew farther north, the skies darkened, and the terrain below became jagged and white. Ice stretched endlessly, broken only by towering crystal peaks and frozen rivers. The ship descended through a narrow canyon until it stopped above a giant circular door carved into a cliff face. Symbols pulsed faintly across its surface. "This is it," the queen said. The moment Raylan stepped out of the ship, the air changed. It was bitterly cold, but something else moved through it, an ancient presence that seemed to reach inside his thoughts. The symbols on the gate flared brighter as he walked toward them. Without touching anything, the door opened inward. The queen followed close behind. Inside, the walls glowed with frozen light. Each step echoed through the long corridor, as if the structure itself was whispering. Then they reached the chamber. A circle of crystal stood in the center, surrounding a lone figure seated in deep meditation. She was old, her skin like smooth stone, and her body wrapped in layers of cloth and metal thread. Her eyes opened slowly as they entered. "I have waited long," the seer said. The queen bowed her head respectfully. High Seer of the Forgotten North, we come with the one the vault named Returner. The seer's gaze turned to Raylan. Her eyes did not show surprise. She rose slowly and stepped forward, placing her hands lightly on Raylan's shoulders. Her fingers glowed with soft blue light. You carry it, she whispered. The spark of the first pattern. But it is incomplete. Raylan didn't know what she meant. He asked, then how do I complete it? She looked toward the queen, then back at him. You must remember what was taken from you. You must relive the first life. Only then will the pattern return. The queen frowned. That will kill him. The seer's voice was calm. No, it will break him. What rises afterward will not be the same. He must choose to endure it. Raylan looked between them. He didn't hesitate. Do it. The seer guided him to the center of the crystal ring. He knelt. The air around him turned to frost. Blue light circled the chamber. The crystals hummed. Then everything around him vanished. He stood in darkness, alone. Until the memories began, he saw a planet made of glass. He saw people who looked like him, but walked with light under their skin. He saw betrayal, fire raining from the sky. Friends, turning into monsters. His body burning with energy that couldn't be controlled. He saw himself choosing exile to save them all. Then he saw her, the queen. Not as she was now, but as a child, crying, reaching for him as the gate closed. He had known her before. He had loved her before. And he had chosen to erase himself too. Save her kingdom, Raylan screamed. The light overwhelmed him. Then it vanished. He collapsed in the snow, breathing hard. The seer knelt beside him. You have seen it. Now you must carry it. The queen helped him to his feet. She looked into his eyes and whispered, You were the one who gave me the crown. Raylan's body shook, but his voice was steady. And I'll protect it again. Asterisk, the wind howled across the frozen cliffs as Raylan stood outside the gate. Of ice, his breath came in hard bursts, clouds rising and fading in the cold air. The queen stood beside him, her cloak fluttering behind her, her gaze fixed on the path ahead. Something in both of them had changed, he remembered now. Not everything, but enough. Enough to know he had once been something else, someone else. A protector, a scientist, a leader. He had chosen to erase himself to stop a war he could not win. But now the war had returned, and with it, so had he. The seer's words echoed in his mind. You carry the first pattern, but it will only awaken when you choose not to use it for yourself. Raylan didn't fully understand the power inside him, but he knew it was linked to the ancient bloodlines. It was not a weapon of destruction. It was a seed of balance, buried inside a broken galaxy. The queen placed a hand on his armored shoulder. The High Council has sent their judgment fleet. If they find you, they will burn every planet to ash just to erase your bloodline. Then, we don't let them find me, Raylan said. She shook her head. We must do more than hide. We must show the people what you are, before the Council spreads their lies. If the Empire sees the truth with their own eyes, they will not obey the Council's command. Raylan looked into her eyes. How do we do that? She turned and walked back toward the ship. We go to the capital. The flight was silent. The skies were darker now. Enemy patrols flew in twisted patterns. They reached the outskirts of the capital just before dawn. The towers still stood, gleaming with light and power. But beneath the surface, rebellion stirred. The Queen's loyal forces had begun to rise. Whispers of her disappearance had turned into rumors of betrayal. The people feared the High Council had already taken control. Raylan could feel the tension in every movement. They were on the edge of collapse. The Queen stood before her gathered troops, thousands of armored warriors standing on the landing platform. She raised her voice for all to hear. The Council wants you to believe I am dead, that I ran from my throne. But I have returned. And I bring with me the one whose blood once shaped the stars. Raylan stepped forward. The mark on his arm glowed through the armor. Gasps ran through the crowd. Soldiers dropped to one knee. A few hesitated, unsure. Then the Queen activated the projection from the memory vault. Images filled the air, showing his past life, his sacrifice, the truth. The hesitation vanished. They believed, but belief would not stop what came next. The sky split with fire. Council warships roared overhead, dropping their blades of light into the city. Explosions rocked the towers. Raylan and the Queen ran toward the central command hall, shields rising behind them. The capital was under siege. The Queen's voice roared through the comms. All forces to the inner wall. Defend the people. Defend the returner. Raylan moved like a shadow, faster than before. His armor responded to him, now like it remembered the shape of battle. He reached the outer gates as soldiers poured in. Alien machines and elite council troops attacked in waves. Raylan's hand flared with power as he struck, sending shockwaves through the ground. But the battle was not in their favor. The enemy was too many. Their forces were endless. Even with the Queen's army holding strong, they could not win. Battle of numbers. Raylan turned to the Queen. There's another way, the heart of memory. I can reach it. I can awaken the pattern fully. She looked at him with dread. If you do, you may not return. Raylan didn't blink. Then I'll finish what I started 10,000 years ago. The heart of memory stood waiting, silent beneath the surface of the capital. Its chamber pulsed faintly as if aware that history was about to complete its circle. Raylan entered alone, his footsteps echoing on the cold stone. His armor was damaged, burned from battle, but his eyes were steady. Outside, the war raged on. The Queen led her forces from the front, fighting with the fury of one who had waited a lifetime to protect what mattered. Her voice guided her soldiers, her presence a beacon in the chaos. But she knew the true battle was no longer out there. Raylan placed both hands on the ancient pedestal. Light burst from the ground, rising in spirals around him. The chamber reacted. Instantly, symbols lit up across the walls, patterns awakened after millennia. The very air began to hum, recognizing its creator. Pain surged through Raylan's body, but he did not pull back. Memories flooded in clearer now. The collapse of the first civilization. The desperate creation of the pattern. The sealing of the heart. And the last command he had given before erasing himself from the stars. Do not awaken me unless the galaxy forgets how to live. The pedestal glowed brighter, and the pattern passed fully into him, his skin lit with blue veins of energy. His thoughts expanded, and he felt the threads of life across the planet. Every living being, every voice, every pulse of light now moved inside his reach. The Queen looked toward the sky as the storm above shifted. A beam of light rose from the ground and tore through the clouds. The council fleet paused. Their commanders hesitated. Something ancient was rising beneath them. Something their weapons could not destroy. Raylan stepped out of the chamber. His eyes now shone with soft blue light, but his face was still his own. His voice echoed with power as he spoke across the comms. I am not your enemy. I am not your weapon. I am the memory you tried to bury. The pattern you feared would return. You cannot kill me, because I am part of all of you. Council ships began to fall back. Some fired in panic, but the energy surrounding Raylan absorbed. Each blast like smoke into wind. He walked through the battlefield, untouched. Machines powered by false loyalty shut down in his presence. Soldiers fell to their knees, not in worship, but in recognition. The Queen stepped toward him, her face a mix of awe and sorrow. You came back, she whispered. I never left, he said. She reached for his hand. It was warm, pulsing with life, no longer just a memory. What happens now? She asked. Raylan looked at the stars, then at her. We rebuild. Not by fear, but by remembering who we were, who we could be again. He turned to the remaining council forces. You can run, or you can join us, but you will not rule through silence again. The council's flagship powered down. The war was over. Not by blade, not by fire, but by the return of truth. Days passed, then weeks. The queen ruled not as a conqueror, but as a guide. And beside her stood Raylan, not as a weapon, but as a bridge between what had been and what was now possible. Children were taught the true history. The vaults were opened. Cities once broken began to rise again. And in the center of it all, the queen and the returner stood beneath the stars they had once saved, not as rulers, but as reminders of how far a single memory can carry a galaxy.